Aloha and good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 31st, 2026, and the time is 10:04 a.m. Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? I'd like to welcome to the committee members who are present in the chamber today: Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto, Council Chair Waters, Council Members Talba, Cordero, and Floor Leader Kia Aina. Although remote oral testimony is being permitted, this is a regular in-person meeting and not a remote meeting by interactive conference technology under HRS Section 92-3.7. Therefore, the meeting will continue notwithstanding loss of audiovisual communication with remote testifiers or loss of the public broadcast of the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways: in person in the council chamber and remotely via video conference or phone. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when each agenda item is taken up. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. As both English and Hawaiian are official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. All persons who have registered to testify in person will be called upon first. When your name is called, please come up to the testifier podium. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. After in-person testimony has concluded, I will proceed to remote testimony via video conference or phone. When I call your name, please monitor your screen and follow the prompt to unmute. For those who are joining us by telephone only, please press *9 if you wish to testify, and I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please listen for the prompt to unmute and press *6. Some friendly reminders and tips. video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're also watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you are called to testify. When the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off or silence all cell phones for the duration of this meeting. Members, moving on to agenda item number 1 for action, Bill 8, 2026 creates a fund to receive and expend monies to support fire prevention activities. This morning with us from the department, the Honolulu Fire Department, we have Battalion Chief Jean-Claude Bish and Battalion Chief Pao Ching Wang. Aloha, good morning.
Good morning, Committee Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, and committee members. I'm Battalion Chief Pao Chi Huang with the Honolulu Fire Department. Honolulu Fire Department is currently in support of Bill 8. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Battalion Chief Wang. Members, do we have any questions for the Fire Department? Thank you so much for being here. Seeing no questions, we'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding on with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Seeing no further testimony, members, we are in discussion. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 8, 2026 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any further discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 2, Resolution 26-36 approves the City and County of Honolulu's 32nd year action plan for community development block grant, home investment partnerships, emergency solutions grants, and housing trust fund programs, and authorizing its submittal to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. With us from the administration and from the Department of Community Services, Director Anton Krucky. Good morning, Director Krucky.
Good morning, Budget Chair. Anton Krucky, Director, Department of Community Services, here to answer any questions you may have on this.
Thank you, Director Krucky. Members, do we have any questions? Councilmember Kia'aina.
I do have comments. So, Chair, you could determine whether or not I wait for discussion.
Okay, we can table it for discussion. I'll take
Yes.
testimony first. Thank you, Councilmember Kia'aina. Any questions for the director at this time? Thank you, Director Krucky. We'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we are in discussion. Councilmember Kia'aina.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you to both the directors of community services as well as budget and fiscal services for providing me with information since our last briefing on the administration of the program, including some of the history of funding nonprofit organizations. So I greatly appreciate that. I still believe that there's room for improvement, and I would like to hope that this is our 6th year. So I'm hoping before we finish our terms, both the administration as well as us, that we could strengthen the program, especially when it comes to timeliness for certain programs. That seems to be an impediment of why a lot of nonprofits may not be funded, so that we could get there. I had a discussion with the HUD office, and I said that 30 years ago, I was so proud of the CDBG program. I used to direct a lot of nonprofit organizations when I was in DC to it because it was so vibrant. And since I've been here, I don't have that sense of vibrancy. Not to say that there aren't good programs being administered, but it seems to me that prior to this administration, there has been a shift in the city whereby a lot of the programs that are being funded is mostly city, and I still have concern over that, so I wanted to relay that, even if some nonprofits are funded. The fact of the matter is, when it comes to Hawaii Island, Kauai, and Maui, the majority of their CDBG funds are for nonprofit organizations. So all I'm asking is for a time of reflection, and if there are challenges on why we are not able to pivot, then let's address it head on in concert with HUD. I do know that that the city's parameters for implementing it is actually more stringent than HUD. And that should not be the case because this program is such that it should be flexible. And so that's all, directors in the administration, that I just hope that we could work on looking at who is funded for public service programs as well as property acquisition. And while there seems to be a focus on housing, acquisitions sometimes are quite complicated and have more stringent requirements. And the parameters of CDBG is far greater than that. It's broader. And so we can look at some property acquisitions that won't have all of those stringent requirements. So I just commit to being here to be able to move this program forward and to see that we see what we could do to increase the total allotment of dollars going to the nonprofit organizations. Thank you.
Thank you for Kia Aina. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you. I didn't have any questions for the director, but with the great insight from our floor leader, may I ask the director to come up as I have some clarifying questions for this particular measure. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Thank you again, Director Krucky.
Hi, Director Krucky. I remember back in 2014 when the City and County of Honolulu, actually when admin used to testify on that side, and they would say that we were at risk with our ESG, our home funds and CDBG funds, and whether or not how we should handle those funds. And I just wanted to know, with the plan here, how we are able, or what are the specific deadlines that the city has to deal with HUD as well, and how we are able to disperse the funds better that way, and if that determines how we are dispersing such CDBG funds.
So in terms of CDBG, we have an annual date that we need to meet for timeliness. And previously, as I started into this job, we weren't making timeliness. And so we've pivoted. We have some legacy projects that are still in there that I think were the things that Councilmember Kia Aina was relating to when she's talking about parks and stuff. But we've already invested in those, so we're trying to wind those down. And then as we wind them down, we can clear off our dockets of projects that have been, in there for a few years. But since that time, about 3 years ago, when we were bringing up the shelters and the single shelters, we decided that we needed to, in some sort of bed arrangements, that we needed family shelters. And that was when we went to Wahiawa and purchased that property. And then we leased it to Family Promise for very little to run a family shelter there. And then we've also done multiple projects now where the organizations have bought the properties for themselves. And there's a mixture of good and bad with that, where if we buy the property and the organization isn't using the property properly, we can change the use of the property so that we meet the guidelines, the national guidelines that HUD has. But if they buy it, then they're going to run it and they'll take that responsibility. We're also winding down some of our programs to release them from those responsibilities. But in terms of the timeliness for the program, I think the one big thing that we're adding to it is that we were late in getting the money, and late in getting the money from HUD, the authorization, it left us not enough time to do the transactions we want to do. So now we're looking at fronting the money as a city, waiting for that money to come in so we have the time to finalize those transactions. And I think that's been an improvement of an attitude, if you will,
Yeah.
to get this done, and be efficient in the timeliness.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, because in addition to how the CDBG funds are received and then expended, the biggest thing that I've always watched was regarding our timeliness. So the efforts and the steps that you've discussed and are closing out on those projects are good to hear, as well as I know it's reflected in the plan as well. So mahalo for highlighting that, and thank you, Chair Okimoto.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Members, any further discussion or questions for Director Crecchi? Thank you, Director Crecchi. The chair recommends that Resolution 26-36 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion? Any objections? Any reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 3, Resolution 26-55 authorizes a transfer not to exceed $1 million in highway fund monies within the investigations activity from the salaries character of expenditure to the current expenses character of expenditure for fiscal year 2026 to enable the Honolulu Police Department to purchase P25 portable radios to help maintain public order and to ensure the safety and security of the city and county of Honolulu. And with us this morning, we have from the Honolulu Police Department Major Ryan Hironaka. Good morning, Major.
Good morning, Budget Chair Okimoto, Budget Vice Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, and members of the Council. I'm here for Resolution 26-55, which is to move $1 million in highway funds from the investigations salaries character of expenditure to the current expense character of expenditure. And these funds will be used to buy portable radios, P25 portable radios. Currently, the department has an ongoing project to replace all of its portable radios, which is going to total approximately 2,500 radios at the end of the project. So far in fiscal year 26, we've replaced about half of them. And as we're buying the radios off a master agreement, so that's why even though they're pricey, about $6,000, we're able to buy them in bulk as funds come available. We don't have to go through the normal requisition procedures. So as funds come available, we've been able to buy them little by little. Now, we calculated for this fiscal year for the highway funds, which pertains to the traffic division, it's going to lapse approximately $2 million in salaries. And we're unable to move those funds into the general fund. They have to stay within the highway fund. So we want to move $1 million to buy the radios, and that would, all of the officers are issued radios, so that would cover to issue radios to the people that are assigned to the traffic division, and officers in general, they conduct highway enforcement at given times. And with that, I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Major Hironaka. Members, questions for the department? I had a couple of questions based on what you just shared. So you
Yes.
mentioned the 2,500 radios total. That's the department's, I guess, plan or need. And you said, how about half of them would be replaced? What's the lifespan of these radios?
So my understanding was it's about 7 years. The current radios have reached their end of life. While they're still working, parts and servicing is becoming more difficult. So as they break, they're unreplaceable. And even though the radio could, a lot of it comes to the servicing of the item. So even though the radio could last a lot longer, if it does break, then repairing it becomes problematic, and the parts will get more expensive as they get more scarce.
And how often do you have like an annual program of these rotating of
I
radios?
don't recall.
Or you just wait for the 7 years to lapse?
I don't
and then-
recall the last time the radios exactly replaced, but it was several years ago. And
Okay.
so rather than going piecemeal, they prefer to just have one platform that is used. That way there's a, for the parts, they're compatible with that one type of radio, as opposed to having different parts for different model radios of different years.
Okay. And then one final question. You mentioned that you're taking it from the highway funds because of the $2 million lapse in salaries. And these will be used for those people who are the officers who are on patrol on the highway. And only
Well-
for that area because of the funding comes from
Well,
the
it's
highway
going to come
funds?
from the pool of radios, but it encompasses them as well. In terms of using the monies, my understanding is that the funds are used for aspects regarding traffic activities, whatnot. And that covers the entire department, whose mission is not specifically to the division. We do enforce laws handle MVCs or whatnot that pertain to the highways.
Okay. And because you said about half of them need to be replaced, so we're looking at this $1 million for 1,250 radios.
With this amount, the price went up from our initial calculations were for fiscal year 26, so weren't able to buy the full amount we thought we were going to buy. I believe when we budgeted in fiscal year 26, the cost was $6,210, but in recent purchases, it's about $6,400. So this $1 million would purchase approximately 148 units.
Okay, thank you so much, Major Hironaka. Members, any further questions or discussion? Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 26-55 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion? Oh, thank you. I get so close, guys, sorry. I almost forgot to include testimony. I apologize. So let me take a step back. We'll now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Okay. Now the chair recommends that Resolution 26-55 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you. Members, moving on to agenda item number 4, Resolution 26-60 approves the telecommunications facilities lease agreement with T-Mobile West LLC for its existing telecommunication facility within the Harbor Division Apartments, 901 River Street, Honolulu, Oahu, Hawaii, tax map key 1-7-002:027. I'm going to go off script a little bit so I don't make the same mistake. I'm going to proceed with testimony first. So members, let's proceed with testimony. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no testimony, we'd like to welcome from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Good morning, Budget Chair, Chair Waters, Honorable Council Members, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Thank you for allowing BFS to present or request Resolution 26-60. It's a new lease agreement for an existing Type 2 telecommunication facility at the Harbor Village Apartments. The rent or fee is in the document to be approved by council. I'm here to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Kawano. Members, any questions for the director? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Okimoto. Director Kawano, I know that I asked this maybe last year about if we have a master agreement with the different telecommunication companies so that we are able to maybe raise rates or or consider the different property changes with the different telecommunication companies?
Councilmember Cordero, we don't have a master agreement. We have a standard agreement. With regard to adjusting rates, we're in the process right now of working with the Department of Design and Construction Land Division to do a study of telecommunication lease or licensing fee rates for Oahu. It's going to take a while, but we haven't started, the work yet. It's in progress, though.
Okay, I understand. And it's because I know that, and the reason why I asked about the master agreement, because right now DHLM and you oversee, but sometimes before the budget committee, we often see people like E&V or shucks, I don't know which other department that would normally come before us too, right? Because it's what they use the telecommunications facility for. So I just wanted to highlight that if it may be easier, if it's just with the particular master agreement with the particular companies. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Members, any further questions for the director? Director Kawano, if you don't mind, if you could just quickly state, because I am going to be postponing this measure, and I wanted to just discuss it quickly for the public to understand the reason for it, and that's basically with the required, this portion of it that we need to put into the lease that's in the bill. If you could quickly explain that.
I'm sorry, Budget Chair. Can you repeat your question again?
Sure.
Yeah.
I was asking you to explain, I will need to postpone it, and there is a whereas clause in the measure that I need to consider. I'm going to need your assistance with in placing it into the lease agreement, and that whereas clause is, I think it's on the second page, whereas in order to permit T-Mobile West to enter into an agreement for more than 5 years, T-Mobile West is required to expend more than $25,000 for capital assets or for the renovation of or maintenance of any capital asset for the term of the agreement as outlined in ROH Section 38-4.1.
The $25,000 capital investment is, I think, in ordinance.
Is that currently in the lease agreement? This,
Yes, it should be. Let me see.
I think from my understanding, the language is not in the lease agreement. So Director, I think what we'll do is the plan was because it's not found currently in the lease agreement, and I can have my team work with you and your department just to make sure that before we move it forward, to have it in the agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That being said, any further discussion, members? Thank you. The chair recommends that action on Resolution 26-60 be postponed to a date and time to be determined by the chair. Any further discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Members, moving on to agenda item number 5, Resolution 26-74 authorizes a transfer of funds up to an amount not to exceed $16,777,253 in general fund monies be transferred from the provision of hazard pay activity, salaries, character of expenditure for fiscal year 2026 to the Department of Transportation Services, Transportation Mobility Activity Salaries, character of expenditure for the payment of temporary hazard pay to eligible members of Teamsters. Before we call up the administration, I'd first welcome to the chamber Councilmember Dos Santos Tam. And we will now proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Members, we'd like to now welcome back to the podium from the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Director Andy Kawano.
Yes, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. For the record, thank you for allowing us to further explain this, this resolution 2674. So based on prior discussions with City Council, the administration is working on an equity settlement or payment of benefits to our bus drivers, a part of the Teamsters Union. And similar to the Honolulu Fire Department, we've decided that it would make sense to offer an equity settlement to the Teamsters Union through OTS and DTS. And the amount would be no more, not to exceed $7,500 per eligible union member. Plus the employer portion of the applicable payroll taxes. The total amount coming out to $16,777,253. The proposal has been provided to the union president. We don't have an agreement yet on the amount, but we'd like council to approve, the maximum not to exceed amount so we can continue our discussions with the union. Our goal is to enter into a supplemental agreement before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, thank you so much, Director. Members, do we have any questions for Director Kawano? Floor Leader Kia Aina.
Thank you. Thank you, Director. I fully support this measure. because I think we all agree that, there were so many city officials, right, who was on the front lines, and there's no doubt that the bus drivers were the head of the bus, right? So just want to make sure that this moves forward. But I did have a follow-up question with regard to the potentially, the number would be 44 staff at the Department of Community Services who have felt that they've fallen in the cracks. And I queried you and others with regard to how that happened. I didn't hear from other agencies, so I'm feeling that it could have happened up the chain of command, perhaps with an official who may have misidentified who were working full-time teleworking and who was working part-time. So I just wanted to know whether or not the administration was working to at least resolve, to allay the concerns of any staff who feel that they may be inequitably treated.
Councilmember Kia Aina, Mike Formby, Managing Director. Let me give you an update on that. So we originally had an agreement with HGEA that provided that people who teleworked full-time were ineligible for hazard pay. And at the time we came to that agreement with HGEA, we had a process. And the process was that if it was documented in the records that they were full-time teleworking, then they would not be eligible for hazard pay. And after we went through the process of polling all of the departments, primarily through the ASOs, as to which employees had been documented full-time teleworkers, that was used to process payments. And then after payments were made, there were a number of employees, I believe about 20 in DCS, that claimed that in fact they were not full-time teleworkers. So I'm working with DHR and Corporation Counsel on that issue now. If you look at the settlement agreement with HGEA, it's written in a way that is not tied directly to the documentation, but tied to whether or not they teleworked full-time. So we'll get through that process, and the goal of the city is to be fair with all of our city workers.
Okay, terrific. So I just want to make clear that if in fact the ASO misrepresented whether someone was 100% teleworking or part-time teleworking, that will be addressed, correct?
It will be addressed.
Okay.
And some of the ASOs, I believe the ASO that documented initially, Brian Blue, is no longer with the department, and that complicates
Yes,
the issue as well.
I know that, but sometimes systems for processing are imperfect, but we need to get to the root of it, because if someone was in error, then that would be unfair. So,
Agree.
But thank you.
Thank you for Leader Kia Aina. Members, any further questions? Chair Waters?
Good morning. Either one of you could answer the question. So the offer has been made, but it has not been accepted. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Yeah, if I could clarify, I spoke to Kevin Holu yesterday on the phone. Kevin Holu understands that he basically, by agreement with OTS, needs to decide how they're going to distribute the money to the Teamsters. In other words, we know that there's a finite amount of money that we're going to give, and it's $7,500 per person that is eligible. Management employees are not eligible, just like the administration wasn't. Managerial types are not. So management is not eligible. We know the number of eligible, but he can take the total number, and if he wants to distribute it to his workers like the firefighters did, that they actually get paid for the time that they served during the 24-month period, some of the bus drivers, handy van drivers, and mechanics will get more, and those who serve less will get less. So you might have a bus driver that only worked for 2 months during the 24-month period, and the Teamsters decides, like the firefighters, that they want to get 2 months out of 24 of the $7,500 versus the full amount. They haven't decided that yet. But what Kevin Holu does know is, for the purpose of the council passing this reso, that they are limited in the cap on how much money they can get. And then we'll have to work with them on the payroll taxes based upon how much the employees get. But there's a finite amount that they can get. How they distribute that is up to them.
I see. So the finite amount is $16,777,000.
That's correct.
Okay. And if I'm hearing you correctly, we approved this today, and then when will we know whether they accepted it? Or you think they already did accept it, they just need to determine what each employee is going to receive?
Correct. So I asked Kevin Holu yesterday. The firefighters actually had a ratification, but Kevin Holu told me that he does not need to get ratification from his members. So whether he chooses to or not, he is agreeable to the number. And it's important to us that we get the money out so that they can come up to an agreement with their membership. But he agrees to the number, and that was sent to him yesterday. I sent him the math from the reso, the exact amount, number of employees, total amount plus payroll taxes.
I see. So are we actually capping it at 7,500, or the union can determine the amount that each employee gets over and above 7,500?
Correct. We're capping the total amount based on 7,500 per worker.
Oh, I see. Okay, and that's my understanding with the fire department. The chief went through employee by employee and determined who was working, how many hours, and then the pay was adjusted according to that. Okay, so you did say that the fire department ratified the
My
agreement?
understanding is they did. Okay. I guess I heard premature feedback that they're going to ratify it, but the actual ratification is April 2nd.
I see. And the 16 million, is that for just the Teamsters, or that's the Teamsters and the firefighters?
This is just Teamsters,
Just
just bus drivers, handy van drivers, and mechanics.
I see. And then at a later point, we're going to get another resolution for the firefighters?
To my understanding, there's no resolution required for the firefighters. And if Dana Viola wants to explain the rationale for that, she's here. And I think, Dana, are you willing to do that? Yes? Come up and say. She might tell you it's legal advice.
Oh,
But my understanding is we spent a lot of time going through what was required to get the money to the firefighters in a way that they could have a vote on April 2nd, and it did not require formal council action.
okay.
Dana Viola, a Corporation Counsel. I think we've already provided a letter to the council, all council members that explain the rationale. So to be completely transparent, the administration essentially provided that notification. The legal determination was there was no resolution required because it was considered to be a supplemental agreement, because there was no, it's not a settlement like the other, like what was resolved, how the other essentially unions resolved the claims. So because there's no claim and because there's no contractual issue, we treated it like a supplemental agreement. So it'll be a supplement to their existing contract. And so because it's a supplemental agreement, it does not need a resolution. And because the provisional for the hazard pay had already been established and council had already indicated that they wanted to cover hazard pay for the firefighters as well as the Teamsters, this was the proper legal process.
I see. Okay, thank you. How much money did the city allocate for firefighters?
11.7 million.
11.7 million. May I ask how many Teamsters are included in the settlement, and how many firefighters are included in the settlement?
Roughly, I think the number for Teamsters is in there 2,087 or something like. I'm sorry?
And firefighters, 2,078.
So 2,078 Teamsters, and then for firefighters, it's between around 1,100 and 1,200. We have that number.
I see. Okay, well, good news. Hopefully we can get that money out as soon as possible and folks can get paid. Thank you so much.
And let me tell you, I appreciate the the council in this, because that actually was council that put forth the resolutions that recommended that we take care of the bus drivers, handy van drivers, mechanics, as well as the firefighters. So thank you for your support.
No, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. I had a quick question for Managing Director. Hi, Director Formby. Just kind of following up, I think Chair Waters asked most of my questions, but just to clarify, because this amount that's being asked, the 16 million, I know that's not the set number, but there's no chance of coming back and saying we need to offer more. That's not going to be, this will be the max.
That's correct.
Okay.
If anything, based upon some of the workers not being, depending on how they calculate it, some of the workers not being eligible, there might be actual money coming back, but we're not going to exceed that cap.
And the eligibility of these members, you said, was based on if they're administration or management, and then possible teleworkers who weren't out. Were there any? No, that was just what Councilmember Kiaina was asking about.
Yeah.
So what qualifies as an eligible union member?
It's non-managerial. And for bus drivers, handy van drivers, and mechanics, they don't have teleworking. So that was the teleworking issue didn't apply to the Teamsters.
So those who are not eligible would just be the managerial that you mentioned.
The eligible hazard pay goes to non-managerial.
Got it, okay. And when I think Chair Waters asked about the $7,500 cap, you did say that that's the max, but the union will then decide who gets more or less depending on their work.
That's correct. So they can distribute that however they want to, but the cap is what they're limited by.
No one will get over 7,500. Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. Members, any further questions or discussion? Okay. Seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 26-74 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, any objections or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Moving on to agenda item number 6, informational briefing, disaster response to weather events, including fiscal impact. I'd like to thank again from the administration, the Office of the Managing Director Mike Formby. Sorry, Director, just so that I don't make the mistake again, I'm going to just quickly take testimony, and then I'll turn it over to you. We'll now first proceed with in-person oral testimony in the council chamber. Clerks, do we have any in-person testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. Proceeding now with remote testimony. Clerks, do we have any registered or unregistered remote testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you. I'd now like to turn the time over to Managing Director Mike Formby.
Good morning, Budget Chair Okimoto, Vice Chair Nishimoto, Chair Waters, and council members. Mike Formby, Managing Director. So first thing I wanted to ask you to do was to not use the document that I distributed yesterday. That document was in large part unreadable due to being taken off of a website. And what I did is I went to the website and I actually went line item by line item to gather as much information as I could from council about where the estimated costs are going, and I did it by department. And so the numbers also changed overnight. I think the Kona Low 2 went up by about $10 million, but this is the current. And I want to just explain to you where we're at, because it's a little bit unstructured at this time because we're so early in the damage assessment for city infrastructure process. For damage assessment as it relates to residential properties, FEMA eligible, we're very far along in that process. We've been working with FEMA, who's been going out with our teams in vans to verify the losses, and we're confident that we've reached the FEMA eligible declaration number for that. But what I'm talking about for the purposes of this conversation is the potential exposure of the city to city infrastructure losses. And so just like in the budget, there are potentially operating losses, and then there are CIP costs. And I've tried to break that out for you on the first page. So the first page is our internal sort of estimate of where we think we're at. And there's a lot of TBDs in there right now because we don't know. But if you look at the top category, those are all operating. And then in the middle, we have the fiscal year 27 fiscal stability reallocation, and that was addressed in my letter that I sent 8 days ago, and then the bottom are the CIP, and these are just estimates. But if I look at this number right now and I choose the middle column, because I always want to estimate on the high side for the purposes of planning, we're roughly 52 million in what we believe to be operating and CIP losses from Kona Low Storm 1 and 2. And then if you flip to the second page, this is where it's taken off the virtual EOC website. And this website allows every department to report virtually onto a damage assessment form, and they have to categorize them based upon FEMA designations, because we're trying to get as much FEMA reimbursement as possible if we get the federal declaration, which we don't have yet. But if you look at these costs, I've broken them out by department, and the summary goes all the way for the Kona Low 1 to the fourth page, and you'll see that for Kona Low 1 on the fourth page, 33,298,682. And these numbers are not precise at this time. You should know that. I do think there's some duplication because numbers are entered by different people. And I think some of these are estimates that will be lower, perhaps higher, so they're not actuals, and we'll be getting more specifics as we go. And then the fifth page is the Kona Low 2 storm. And you can go through the departments, and these are not supposed to be captured in Kona Low 1. So they're captured in two separate storms, Kona Low 1 and Kona Low 2. For Kona Low 2, if you go to the last page, it's 69,783,986. So there we're over 100 million. So today I'm just going to tell you that we're still working on getting details, but we think the number is going to be somewhere between 50 million and 100 million of losses to the city. We're going to be applying for as much federal assistance as we can. We don't have the federal declaration yet, but if we do, that will make us FEMA eligible. There's also a federal highways program that Roger Morton is working on to get federal funds through the federal highways program. And all of those do require reimbursement. And reimbursement many times comes long after the expenditure, and that's the concern. So what we will be doing at some point when we feel we have enough granularity for the council to make decisions is we'll be coming to the council with a proposal to tap the Fiscal Stability Fund. And in my letter, dated March 23rd, which was very early in the process, just to give the council a heads up that we expected losses that would impact our fiscal year 27 budget, I talked about on the second page the $5 million that we had recommended for appropriation into the Fiscal Year Stability Fund. We can either leave that money in, the $5 million in, because we know what we're probably going to take out is much higher than $5 million. At the time, I just didn't know. So I said $5 million. So we can just leave the $5 million in, and then we can take out whatever we want. That's a decision of council and BFS on how we do that. But we think for the purposes of bond rating and program stability, it looks good for us to still put our annual contribution into the fund, even though we're taking money out that we hope to receive reimbursement on from FEMA and federal highways and perhaps other grant programs. But we can have that discussion, but that's what that last paragraph meant, is we had put $5 million in. At the time, we thought if we just take that out, it would cover the losses, but clearly we're way above that. And so that's the process that we're going through. We do have other potential impacts to the revenue side. So we do have programs, and one you've learned about already in the letter is the remission of real property taxes. And that is a program that is a structured program. We have a website up called, if you go to One Oahu, just like we used during COVID, the One Oahu website has now been repurposed for the Kona Low storm recovery. And on this website, we have access to the real property tax relief program, the remission program. And it has uploadable forms on it. So people in the community can actually go to this website. They can upload the ordinance. They can upload the form online to submit. And then once we start receiving those applications, there's a process that Director Kawano can describe to you that the department will go through to determine what the impact might be to our real property tax. And then we have some other fee waiver programs, and also on the One Oahu website is a Department of Planning and Permitting FAQ that tells what work can be done without a permit, where we waive permit fees, and that information is all available. So it's potential that will have some impact to our revenue accounts as it relates to fees from different departments. And we're still trying to capture all of those programs, but the goal, I think, is one that this council supports, and that's providing as much relief to the people that have been impacted by the Honolulu storms and need assistance. And so we're looking at a number of other programs. I know OER is currently working with the state on standing up, not finalized yet, but standing up a Honolulu business recovery program. And this program is tentatively penciled out at $4 million, and it would provide grants to businesses that have lost money because of the Honolulu storms. And then we're also tracking farm losses. And I think hopefully you've had access to the information that came from the state regarding the impact of losses to the farms. If you don't have this, we can get this to you. I think you have it. And Alex is here if you want to ask questions about that. But the state had a program, and the state's program was $1,500 per farm, and it had a cap of $500,000. So they still have, I think, about 1,800 applications outstanding with no relief. And whether or not the city wants to participate in some sort of program like that is up to the council. So there's a lot of opportunities to do things, but one, we have to be very careful that we don't duplicate state relief and federal relief when it comes in, because then you get into a supplanting situation where people come and claim money back. So there's a lot of structure that needs to go into this program, and we just don't have that structure yet. But I'm happy to answer any questions that council might have. Director Kawano is here. Deputy Managing Director Krishna J.R. is here, and OER is here. And we'll also get you any information that you want that we can't provide today. We'll get it for you and follow up in writing.
Thank you, Managing Director. Members, we're going to start with Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto for questions.
Thank you, Managing Director. Appreciate the update. So a few questions. So you talked about how you think there's about $50 to $100 million in damages, and that you're going to come to us with a proposal on how you're going to use the rainy day fund or the fiscal stability fund. When do you think you're going to give us that proposal? Because we're in the middle of a budget, so.
Great question, and I'm going to ask Director Kawano to come up and speak to that, because he's been working with the council on the timing for that.
Thank you. Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. Councilmember Nishimoto, we're looking at getting you the proposal to accompany your CD2 amendment. So it's we're thinking that the number will be a part of the total CD2 amendment list for council discussion and review.
And do you think the proposal will take, will it be funded wholly by the Fiscal Stability Fund, or will it be a bunch of
we're gonna look at what we have left in the provisional for disaster preparedness and response. Okay. But that one, I think, is going to be used up pretty quick, because DEM, Emergency Management, already has a lot of larger engagements going on, including the folks from the mainland that have come in. So they have to pay for that. And then, you know, we have the debris recovery contract as an example that has to be paid. But we're gonna have to also stage the projects, because some may be CIP, and if there's no threat to public safety, we may be able to propose an amendment to the CIP budget to cover a repair that doesn't have to be done right away. We don't want to deplete the fund. The council and administrations from the past have diligently built the fund up to almost $200 million. So the goal is to, use it prudently and ensure that we only use the fund for exact needs that we have that have to be addressed right away.
So I know the fund is used for our bond rating. So how much could you take from the fund and not really affect our bond rating?
I don't know. I mean, it's going to depend on when the rating agencies take a look at our situation in June. That's about the time frame. They will understand that the fund is being used for its exact purpose, and that most of the costs should be non-recurring. I like the fact that managing director said that we'll continue, if council agrees, to add funds to the fund in 27. I think we propose $5 million as a transfer in. I suggest we keep it as is, as managing director stated. And I think we'll be in good shape in about a couple weeks to provide the information you
Okay,
need
so
to discuss it.
you're going to be providing it to us in a couple weeks, around that time.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And then I know in the managing director's memo to us on the 23rd, he talked about the tax remission program, yeah, for people whose homes were wholly destroyed or partially destroyed or damaged. Do we have an estimate of a ballpark estimate of how much revenue hit we're going to take?
It's too early right now to provide an estimate. We're collecting claims, applications. I think we have about 20, so they're flowing in. Our real property tax appraisers have to go out to the property to do validations. They're going to check with fire and HPD to find out if we have video, drone video of the damage right after the storm, because they can focus on what streets to visit first, and prioritize their assessment work that way. The property owners have till June 30 to turn in their claim, so they have time. And we've provided flyers as to what kind of information would be helpful to support their claim as well.
So we would probably have to use some kind of a marker on how much we think the revenue loss is going to be, correct?
Yeah, let me give you an example for the losses per property are controlled by property taxes paid for the year that the storm happened. So like for the 2021, I think there was a Kona low storm in Haleiwa, that area. I think Wailua as well. If I recall right from statistics provided recently, there were just about, there were over 70 claims filed. Of the 70, 51 were validated. And of the 51, the payout was $50,000. So it's not, it may not be that large because it's capped by the real property taxes paid. Also, if you're looking at ag land and crops were destroyed, taxes are not calculated on crops. So those wouldn't come into play. It's damage to the land, to the real property, and the structures on the real property. And we state this in our flyer, contents, personal items in the home, personal assets are not included. So yeah, furniture, fixtures,
So
mattresses, that kind of stuff.
On the revenue side, do you have any kind of ballpark figure on how much you think our revenue in taxes is going to go down due to this storm?
For this year, because it's going to impact FY26, I don't have a number yet. Yeah, it's going to come soon though.
In like 2 weeks when we,
Well,
or some kind of estimate,
not
right?
that soon, because the claims come in and then the appraisers go out to validate. So it'll be, I think the number will be determined over a period of time, because they have to go out and do the assessment.
Okay. And then from your experience, when we front the money for FEMA and get reimbursed, how long do you think that reimbursement's going to take to come?
I can't speak from experience, but I remember talking to our past DEM director about it, Hiro, and he said, expect more than a half year. It's gonna be a long wait.
More than a
And
half year.
more than 6 months.
I think
yes.
it's more than that, right?
Yeah,
I mean-
he said he just told me it's going to be easily more than 6 months. Yeah.
Okay.
From the time we turn in our request for reimbursement,
Because I think it's decades. It could be decades, actually.
It could be. Well, there was a 2018 storm as well, and I think we were receiving payments in increments all the way through a few years ago. And I asked DEM why, and they said there was back and forth. So FEMA didn't agree with our support. So we provided more information, and it was like that. It was going back and forth, and that's why it took long. But I think the first payment may have come in 2019. It'll take a while.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Nishimoto. Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Okimoto. This question is either for the BFS director or the managing director. First off, I just want to clarify when managing director mentioned about the second transmitted memo. Was it Mayor's Message 38? Is that the correct message that we're supposed to be looking at?
Mayor's Message 3226.
How about the second one? Is that Mayor's Message 38? The one with the
handout yesterday?
the handout from yesterday, but that we're looking at right now.
Oh, I'll
that
have-
one, that one right there. Yeah, 38? Okay, 38. Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that that's clear because I know you mentioned that there was a change in what was legible and not legible. Okay, and for anyone watching online. So my first few questions to piggyback off of Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto's questions about the tax remission. First off, what are the conditions or characteristics of what would then be considered partially damaged or destroyed? And that would be on private property, right?
Yes, that's correct. Real property. So 100% destroyed or 100% loss would mean that the home essentially is washed away in a
I
flood.
meant partially, because I mean, there's a wholly destroyed or damaged in the letter, as well as partially. So what would those characteristics and conditions be? Because you're going to have plenty of people, like in my district, just rock slides during the Kona lows, right? And they may have hope, and that might be something that could be potential for tax remission. But I would like to help them manage expectations. Like you may not get it because
I think
partially.
there are no hard and fast rules, in terms of determining what's the amount of partial loss that occurred.
Okay.
What we would recommend is that if the property owner has photos at the time of the flood, when the flood action was happening, if they have photos during the cleanup and photos after the cleanup, that would be great, because when the appraisers go out there, they're going to see what's there after the cleanup. So if they can have photos of the status of the property at those different points in time, that would be very helpful. Any insurance recovery documentation would be helpful.
Insurance.
And of course, their own documentation in terms of describing what they witnessed, what they observed in terms of damage.
And to clarify, just as it relates to flooding, as opposed to any rock slides that may have occurred, right? So not any rock slides or anything like that.
Well, they would, if a rock went through the home and a half of
boulder, yeah.
Yeah, a boulder went through the home and made it uninhabitable, it could be, substantially destroyed.
Okay.
Keep in mind that when real property does the assessment, there's a value to the land and to the structure. So if there's no erosion, visible erosion to the land, that part of the assessment may not be refundable, in terms of a loss.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then going back to the tax remission itself, will that be as a tax credit or refund? Because you mentioned that it needs to be during the year that the natural disaster occurred, right? And so what would a tax remission look like?
The claims are due on June 30, so all of this information is going to be developing over time.
Okay,
The last time we did a remission for the 2021 storm, we did a refund.
refund, okay.
Yeah, and by now, almost all homeowners have paid their real property tax because the last one was due in February, so probably a refund, yeah.
Understood. Thank you for that clarification. I do then have questions about city infrastructure and property because I know that's what a lot of the table looked like. We'll, in addition to Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto's questions about how much we're going to be looking at, how are you going to be prioritizing the city property? Like you mentioned, there's some vehicles and some property that may be in other future CIPs. So do you think we will be able to see the top priorities for the city to take care of soon?
I do, and I think it's, so we have to have a policy, and one of the policies is that if we submit the claim for, let's say on the CIP side, we submit the claim to FEMA, and there's a federal declaration, and you get a federal award, you have to make that improvement. So that would not appear in our CIP program budget over the years. There may be other smaller, costs associated with things that happen to the city that we choose to handle through the CIP budget so that we don't have to pull money out of the fiscal stability fund to front the cost. And that's going to require us to go through all of these losses one by one and make that determination. But it's a balancing act of how much we want to put out of this fiscal stability fund, how much we want to try to get reimbursement from FEMA or federal highways, and then how much we would like to actually program in our CIP budget over time because we don't want to tap the fiscal stability fund. On the operating side, it's more problematic because we really don't have much recourse. So there are things that may look like they're CIP, but may not be CIP. They may be operating cost. Like we've had gutter damage and some roof damage on some of the buildings that are not total roof replacements. Those probably would not come under CIP. They'll come under operating cost. And so it really involves us going through each of these items and working with council, asking council to help inform us as we make decisions about what we think we want to pull out of the fiscal stability fund and what we want to handle through our own budget process.
Okay, thank you. And I know that timeline is tight because of us going through our budget process as well. But thank you. And I just wanted to ask those few questions, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Managing Director, before I allow some of the other members, I do have questions at the end, but for timeline, because Vice Chair Nishimoto did mention this, I'm guessing you guys are aware, but I know the members are aware, we are in the middle of our budget and we have deadlines as well. So our CD2 amendments are due in by April 16th. So that kind of gives me a pause when I'm hearing that we're this hypothetical couple of weeks. We will need to know before then as we go through the process to finalize our city budget. So do you have any more concrete dates? And I understand that you're at the mercy of these other logistical ramifications that are taking place, but we would need to know that. Just, is the administration aware of the deadline that we have, that you guys have as well to us on the 16th?
Yeah, I mean, we have to work very quickly, and the truth is a lot of it is going to be based on estimates. I know for a fact that ENV is all ready to come in with a proposed CIP amendment for damage to H Power and some of their other facilities, and so a lot of it has to be verified. I'll give you an example. The road to one of our communication towers was completely washed out. And so DFM had to go in first and temporarily put some plating down to even get access to the communication tower to figure out what the damage is. And so we had virtual cameras, and we knew there was damage, and we knew that the tower fell, but it actually means sending out teams, contractors, to do verifiable estimates on the work, and it's not something that we're there yet, but we understand the timeline. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough.
Thank you. Thank you for verifying that you guys are aware of that timeline as well. And just really quickly, we've talked about the federal declarations. When do we anticipate this? Because there is a process, like Vice Chair Nishimoto mentioned, after everything is done, for us to get the reimbursements from FEMA, but we haven't been declared yet. So when do we anticipate that happening?
So we have not been given a timeline by FEMA on when that might happen. I know that in the damage assessments, FEMA has exceeded the number that's required for the federal declaration. I don't know the political process between the time that FEMA Region 9 makes that recommendation up to national and then to President Trump. I don't know the timeline for that, but if we get information on that, we'll share it with you right away.
Thank you, Managing Director. I'll come back with some questions. I just wanted to get that date out there. Councilmember Toba.
Chair, you already asked my question. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Councilmember Toba. Councilmember Kia Aina.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'm just going to pivot to the big picture first, because I think a lot of my colleagues have asked very detailed questions, including about timeliness of the relevant information we need. Can I ask a big question first? Who is in charge with regard to the overall emergency preparedness for the city?
So DEM is in charge with support of other agencies. So that would be Randall Collins and Jennifer Walters. And we also have, through a mutual aid assistance agreement, we have Kauai EOC members here on island.
Okay.
And we also have EOC members from the mainland. And then we have a incident management team from the New York firefighters here. So under Randall Collins and Jennifer, we have a number of resources, internal and external.
Okay, and the reason I'm asking is because that you and the BFS director is here. So because it's a complicated, issue, right? There's the fiscal aspect and there's boots on the ground coordination. And so I'm assuming that there is an interagency group within the city administration?
There is.
Which would help with both just confirming all your data, but also on the fiscal front to ensure that it's coordinated. And I just want to make sure you're differentiating between individual versus public assistance, because of course the trickle down with regard to funding streams is related to that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then what is your coordination with HAIMA so we're not duplicating efforts?
Sure. So if I could, I appreciate those questions, Councilmember Kiana. Let me explain to the council how we're set up right now. So when we were actively in the Kona low storm events, we were at level 1, and at level 1, it was a 24/7 operation led by Randall Collins and Jennifer Walter in coordination with HAIMA. And so every day we would have a coordinated HAIMA call, and then we would have a city and county call. And we continue those coordination calls with HAIMA to this day. After the storms were over and the rain had basically subsided, we then switched, we deactivated from a level 1 to a lower level, level 3, which is now debris recovery, recovery assistance, damage assessment, community assistance, food, all of those things. And we continue every morning at 7:30, we meet in the EOC. The mayor leads the conversation. There is an incident action plan that is put out every day. And the incident action plan has the points of contact around the island, so that it's not just Waialua and Haleiwa, it's also Waianae, it's also the Windward Coast. And there are specific report outs from all of these designated leaders on specific items. And we go through all of those items every morning. And then throughout the day, the EOC, which is staffed, they follow up on all of those items. And that's where we've taken advantage of mainland assistance and Kauai assistance, because these people have specific knowledge that we don't have.
Absolutely. And so thank you for that update. With regard to the assessments you're getting in our respective districts, when will we be able to know some of the assessments within our own district from the information that you're getting? Because the Red Cross probably has contacted other members. I'm going to be meeting with them. They have their own assessment, but I I think it would be helpful because we need to know what's going on to this such information. And I've been queried from some of my state lawmakers to see if I had any information on that. Do you have any answer to that?
Sure. Well, first, I want to say that the communications team puts out releases multiple times a day, and they report specific actionable item numbers. They report number of trucks, tonnage, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of information that's available to the public through our press releases, and I think we've done over 120 to date. There's at least 4 or 5 that go out every single day, and they report discrete action items, accomplishments. But on top of that, in the EOC, we have reports that are filed daily reporting status of operations on the windward side, the Waianae side, and Wailua Haleiwa. And there are many reports. One of the discussions we had the other day in the EOC is that it's a data-rich environment. And when I asked them to give me a report that I could go through to prepare for Wednesday's briefing, it takes a lot of time to put that together. But there are discrete reports at the leadership level from Waianae, Windward, and Wailua Haleiwa. And we can get those reports and make them available to the council so that you will have that information. I just have to go back and
by the way, sometimes, because I know sometimes formality when it's official, it impedes the information because you have to be careful. I'm not even looking at that. I'm just looking at a quick assessment of what's going on. Comparatively, I cannot compare to what has happened in my other colleagues' district. But having said that, I still like to know what's going on. My other question has to do with the Hawaii Congressional Delegation. I'm sure that you're working closely with them. And I know you've rattled off an sundry of all of the federal agencies that normally would be involved. I just want to make sure that as you guys are strategizing, right, you're going to strategize with the state and the delegation, that we look at both short-term, immediate, medium, and long-term recovery because the funding streams for all of those categories are different. And the reason I'm saying this, as we're strategizing, you know, there clearly is going to be a disaster supplemental. It always comes out periodically. We need to get on that bandwagon, and the question is what agencies are on that, what is the dollar amount we're going to be asking, et cetera. We went through this in COVID. But the reason I'm saying this is on top of that, of course, there's the normal appropriations process. And I think that both the state and the city need to pivot, similar to what we did in COVID, with regard to the typical requests you would normally have, and pivot for the recovery of these areas. That's all I'm saying. And I would think that the Hawaii delegation would be amenable to that, because while you're looking at all the pots, again, for immediate recovery, there's all of the other pots for the medium and long term, and those are equally important because a lot of those are going to be affecting businesses and individual families. And I think that that coordination to make sure that there's a strategy in place, so it could be the mayor's ask as well as the governor's ask, and the other mayors, I think it just would be helpful. And then my last question had to do with the insurance commissioner. So what is the role of the insurance commissioner in all of this? Because I've been reading that a lot of people are not covered. So what is going to happen in the case where families will not be able to have either their homes or their cars or their farms covered?
Yeah, I appreciate that question, and I'm not sure I have a good answer. We have on our website, One Oahu, a video from DCCA regarding people that do have insurance and the process they should go through to file claims that will be eligible and covered. But for people that are not covered, we have not received any information yet from the state as to what that remedy might look like. And we're obviously, we are talking to the congressional delegation. We are asking them for assistance in coordinating. And you know, we have our two DC experienced grant writers at work, Erica and Annika. They're actively at work on these programs. So we're going to do our very best. But I think the truth is you've identified that in the communities that have been hit, there are a lot of homes and a lot of businesses that are probably not covered by insurance. and they're not going to be able to get partial recovery.
Just my last comment. I know you guys got all the agencies, but the HUD CDBG disaster recovery is one of the best programs that has the greatest flexibility to help communities. And for me, that is not just via the the governments, but the universities, higher education institutions, and nonprofit organizations are going to be able to pitch in. Again, we learned a lot of lessons from COVID. I hope that we could take it to heart and just realize that we're going to be able to get through this, but we need everybody to not just be thinking we're reinventing the wheel. We kind of have a playbook. We just have to adjust.
Yeah, and on the HUD side, Senator Schatz had a conversation with the secretary, and the assistant secretary for planning and community development actually came out and met with us here in Honolulu, and they are open to reprogramming CDBG and home funds. And so Anton Krucky is lead on that for the department. He's actually working with the Assistant Secretary, Ronald Kurtz, to see where we can do that to benefit our community best.
Yes, but that's the CDBG regular fund, correct? I'm looking at, there's a CDBG disaster recovery that's a larger pot, and that fund has the greatest flexibility for disasters.
Agree.
Thank you, Floor Leader Kia-Aina. Members, any further questions? Chair Waters.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Managing Director. This presentation has been really, really helpful, especially Mayor's Message 38. You know, these numbers are staggering, but it doesn't compare to the loss that people sustained with private property. I think it's estimated and been reported up to $1 billion. $1 billion. I mean, people lost everything, right? Their cars, their homes, but their cars, their computers, and just trying to get them as much help as we can and as much as we can afford, which brings me to Mayor's Message 38. So dealing with housing. So I know I've read in the paper about housing at Schofield Barracks, and the Department of Housing and Land Management is identifying properties that the city owns to put people in temporary housing. And you estimate that that's going to cost about anywhere from $5 to $10 million, which is good. We want to be able to get housing for people right away. But I'm also looking at other expenses. Chinatown City property damage, $9 million. Wailua Fire Station damage, $3 million. Flood control at various locations, $10 million. Waimea Bay debris removal, $4 million. HPD overtime, we want HPD out there as much as possible, $1.2 million. Debris sorting, another $5 million. I'm just curious, where are we going to get all this money from? Are we looking at the current budget and figuring out if we need to determine what's nice to have and what's need to have? And I guess that's what the budget chair was concerned about, and I'm concerned about that. And frankly, the whole council, as well as the administration, is concerned about. But preliminarily, I know you talked about $5 million from the Fiscal Stability Fund, but when we're looking at $52 million, you know, obviously, we can't take $52 million out of the Fiscal Stability Fund, it sounds like. At least that's what I'm hearing from Budget and Fiscal Services. But how do you propose that we pay these bills?
So it's a great question that I don't have a good answer to right now, but to me what it means is we have to go through each one of these, and the first we have to decide, is it operating or is it capital? And if it's capital, we have to ask, do we want to submit it? If we get a federal declaration, do we want to submit it for reimbursement? And if you want to submit it for reimbursement, then it means that you have to be able to expend the money up front. So you can't program it in your CIP budget over time. And we have to make a decision as we go through each one of these. Same for operating cost. It may be an eligible operating cost for recovery, but we have to decide if we're going to seek reimbursement, we have to expend up front. And that's going to largely inform us how much money we need cash up front, which we can then look for pockets of cash in the budget. But the truth is, I think as you all know, the budget is really tight. And a scary thing is that when we cut some of the funded vacant positions in the departments to make a balanced budget, they're now tapping those very funds for overtime. And so it's like a juggling act that we're in right now. It's a very uncomfortable position to be in. But I do think it's going to mean we're going to have cash up front to even get through the budget process. And so I'm not sure what the number's going to be for the Fiscal Stability Fund, but I think it could be large. And I think the commitment from the administration and the council would be that when we receive reimbursement, that reimbursement money goes back into the Stability Fund. That way you have the integrity of the fund.
I think that's prudent as well. Just so people know, the Fiscal Stability Fund basically is the rainy day fund. Money that the city set aside exactly for this type of situation, right?
That's correct.
Yeah, and in fact, it was a rainy day. So I think it's time to tap that. Now, the use of the rainy day fund, the administration really doesn't need council approval for that, right? You give us notice and then you can tap the fund. Is that correct?
I believe it's a council process. I believe we come to the council. I'll let Director Kawano speak to that, but I believe we come to the council for approval to tap that fund.
So for the $5 million that we got notice of, you're going to come forward with details on how to expend that money?
No, so at the time the letter was written, we were thinking without knowing, because we had done no damage assessment by the 23rd, that we might be able to get away with $5 million, but obviously we can't. So the recommendation now is that we leave that $5 million into the Fiscal Stability Fund. We go through an assessment, we come back to council and we say, this is the amount we take out of the fund to cover our operating and CIP losses. Some should be programmed over time. Some should be for immediate repair, maintenance, so that we can get reimbursement. And then when the monies come back, we put them back into the fund. But we're just too early to do that right now.
Okay, so the mayor can't just automatically take the money and spend it. You have to come through the council. Okay, so maybe to be prudent, Budget Chair, perhaps we should take money out of the Fiscal Stability Fund during our budget process. And that way the city has access to that. Because once the budget's closed, right, the council can't reopen the budget, but the mayor can. Is that something that is contemplated? Because the money may be necessary after July 1st, right?
We don't know at this time, so we haven't even discussed that. The goal is to give you a credible number that we can ask to tap the Fiscal Stability Fund, do our very best with that. And at some point in the future, we have something that we need to deal with, we could come back to council. But let me have Director Kawano come up and speak about the process.
Okay, yeah, that'd be super helpful.
Yeah, I'd like to say that there's, from now through 2 weeks out, as you get closer to submitting your CD2 amendments, we're going to be doing a lot of work. In addition to, as Managing Director stated, determining what's capital, what's operating or cash funded, what's going to be submitted for reimbursement from FEMA, and what should be worked on right away. You're right, you know, we may have needs in FY26, so we're going to have to think that through and figure out, okay, how do we by ordinance get that amount needed the right way, efficient way, so we can get our hands on the funds that we need as soon as possible. And then we're going to have monies that we need in 27, so it'll be a part of the 27 budget. So we're going to have to figure that out. The other thing that council allows us to do is to borrow between funds for a short term. So what we could do is maybe do a loan to the general fund or something along those lines. Expend those monies, and then when the budget's approved, replenish the fund that we borrowed monies from. You know, that's another possibility too, but we're going to have to look at everything once we determine how much we need to spend by fiscal year 26 and 27.
When you say taking out a loan, what a loan from?
Our budget ordinance allows the administration to borrow monies between funds if we have a cash need. It's like working capital advance
Is that
for
the
a
same
short
as,
term.
as transfer of funds? I know.
It's kind of like that, but we're supposed to report to you when we do that. So council gets a report on the inter-fund borrowings when we do that.
I see, and that's a proviso that's in the budget every
Yes.
year.
Yes.
Okay.
So
and
that comes into play too if we need to do
Right.
that. Yeah.
I see, and that was in contemplation of an emergency such as what we're going through now. You know, I assume that the $5 million that the administration was asking for from the rainy day fund was for the tax remission, right?
Oh, it had no relation to the tax remission. When we made that proposal to council, it was based on what we had available when the mayor submitted his, at the time the mayor submitted the 27 budget proposal. So it has nothing to do with the remission. We had no knowledge of the remission when we put in that transfer request to fiscal stability.
I see. And right now, homeowners have 2 months approximately to make their claim for
To submit
tax
their
remission.
claim, yes.
Again, you know, I walked through the Waialua neighborhoods, and as I mentioned, everything was devastated. I mean, people don't have computers. May I suggest, and I'm happy to help, and I'm sure everybody here in this room is happy to help. We got to walk door to door and help people fill out that form, right? Because when I was there, I mean, people were, they didn't even have time to think about stuff like that because they're just cleaning their house, right?
Yeah,
Just
we
worried
can-
about where they're going to lay their head.
It's possible that we can also do that because I can tell you, I was out there on Saturday, and you're right, the people there are tired from, you know, the stress, the cleaning, and, you know, all of that stuff. So a few of them just took the form. They listened to us in terms of what had to be filled in. I mean, how to complete the application or the claim. But none of them filled it out there. They just took, and some took a bunch of forms for family and friends. So yeah, you're right. Some of the residents in the area that sustain a lot of damage may need help.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But back to the fiscal impact on this budget. Just say the housing, $10 million. Is that coming out of this year's budget?
The
2020?
housing,
The estimate for housing, anywhere between $5 and $10 million.
Oh.
Housing assistance. So are we pulling that from the existing budget?
I think that's still going to be determined in terms of the timing of when the cash is needed. So that's going to come later.
So Chair Waters, on the housing, we're trying to locate housing that has some close proximity to the impacted communities, and we've located a new Bill 7 project in Wahiwa, 61 units that the owner has made available. And so what we have to do is figure out what the reimbursable cost would be to the providers of the units. I know Schofield offered units, and I think Deputy Managing Director knows that the state was working with Schofield on those units. But basically, we estimated, I think, really on the high side, because we don't know how long impacted families would need to be in those units while they repair their homes. But Krishna, do you have anything to add on the housing piece?
Thank you, Chair. Christian Jai, I'm Deputy Managing Director. So we've been coordinating closely with the state throughout on the housing piece. As the Managing Director shared, there are 80 units at Schofield that are available already. They're already processing it. We can go through 2-1 to do that. We're also bringing on board another 45 plus, some of them which are city, some of which we've sourced. And right now, Anton Kruk is figuring out how we make those units available in a meaningful way, because a lot of those units are also empty.
Yeah.
They're not furnished, so there's practical realities associated with those units that we're still working through. But we're going to make them available as soon as possible. And the discussions we've been having, the question you posed, as much as possible, we're looking at our current budget and using our current budget, any savings that might be in our current budget to meet these needs. And when we don't meet those needs, that's when we have a discussion with MD, with Andy, and with yourselves on how we go from there.
Appreciate that. And let us know if we need to have emergency budget hearings. We're happy to do that and accommodate. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. I had a couple of questions. I know, thank you, members, for the discussion that we've had so far. And I wanted to start off with the Fiscal Stability Fund. I have in front of me the numbers of the estimated for FY26 and then for 27. How accurate are we on the estimate for fiscal year 26? And how accurate are we in the projection for 27? Is that also what we anticipate?
Okay, so for FY26, we've advised all city agencies to first, expend known savings. So we asked every department to update all of their budget projections for the rest of the year for 26. And to the extent that you have been involved in activities that are in the normal course, like for instance, DFM does stream bed clearing, and in the area where the storm hit hardest, if they have to do clearing of the stream bed, we ask them to use their any savings they have in their budget. That's number one. And then at the time that they have an estimate of what's going to be in excess of what they have available, then they go to managing director. That's what that kind of information is being used to populate our damage assessment. Yeah.
Thank you, Director.
And we're still in progress. It's still very early.
I was just wondering, so this 198 million for the estimate for 26, that's now that we're coming to the end of this fiscal year, is that number so accurate on what we?
The 198 million, if you're talking about the Fiscal Stability Fund itself, that's the approximate cash we believe we're going to have on hand. And I've stated that it should be about $200 million by June 30.
Okay.
Yeah, with interest allocated to it.
Okay. Thank you. I just had a couple of questions based on the document that you shared with us. Thank you for doing that. Throughout I guess it's a table or schedule, there's this term, emergency protective measures, different line items throughout the departments. And sometimes it's overtime, sometimes it's just by itself. Can you explain what that is? What's this category of
Yeah, so that is a category that is largely associated with overtime. Where I'm still not completely clear, some of the departments that had labor costs that would not have been expended, but for this emergency, they included labor plus overtime. So we need to go through those and look at them. But when you see emergency protective measures, it's basically overtime for labor. And those are people that were down in the EOC 24/7, or those are people that are out in the community working overtime. And I would note we had one city holiday already. We had many city workers working on the holiday. We had a weekend, they worked on the weekends, and we have a holiday this Friday, which we're going to be taking volunteers to work on Good Friday. And then we have the weekend again, including Easter Sunday, we're going to be taking volunteers. So there's a lot of overtime.
Okay, thank you. So whether it says, because some of them do say OT and others don't, so it's just considered OT if I see this emergency protective measures. There's no other type of expenditure other than that.
So I need to go back to the departments because all of those were entered directly in the EOC system, and then I pulled from the EOC system what I could discern. But I have to go back to those departments and I have to get them to tell me whether it's exclusively overtime or whether it's labor plus overtime.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because it's in different departments, so, but with the same blanket characterization. Okay, category. Thank you. For under the Kona Low 2, I have questions about BWS. And I saw that, I think it was in Kona Low 2, their amount was pretty high. Correct, 19 million. So what is the status of BWS's fiscal year 27 budget?
So we had a discussion with Chief Engineer Lau, and our understanding is this was compiled off the EOC website. So this was entered because they will be seeking federal reimbursement for their losses, but this would not be handled in our budget. That's why I don't believe you see it reflected in our budget, because they're special funded and they have their own emergency response fund.
So the 19.7 million, that's not going to be reflected in our budget?
So my understanding is they would process that through their own board-approved budget. And I think if for some reason they had an expense that they could not handle through their budget, they would come to the city. But right now, Chief Engineer Lau hasn't indicated that he's doing that.
Okay. Does BWS also have a fund similar to our reserve for fiscal stability fund? Is that where they would be taking it from? When you say the board will go and decide.
I didn't catch the department at the beginning.
BWS, I'm still on the BWS, sorry. Does BWS have a fund similar to what we are using or what we plan to use, this stability fund?
They indicated that they have an emergency fund.
Okay. And what is the mechanism for BWS to reimburse the city if funds are dispersed to them from our reserve for fiscal stability? Would we do that, or we would just not even touch it? We would leave it up to them?
So they haven't asked us yet, and we haven't
But if
actually
that came about, what would be that mechanism? What would be the mechanism if we had, if we in the event that we would expend our funds and then have to get reimbursed from them, would that be a scenario that we would anticipate?
I don't believe so.
No? Okay.
As a special fund, they should be self-sustaining,
Okay.
and they should not come to us. And Director Lau, Chief Engineer Lau, has indicated that they will handle that within their budget. So we haven't been asked that question yet.
Okay, thank you. And I know the discussion for, here, as we come to the end of this fiscal year, this storm has come at the perfect time, I guess, when we're ending this fiscal year and preparing for next fiscal year. And as Chair Waters and others have mentioned, our dilemma is how do we take care of the city's responsibilities, knowing that we have limited funds this year as well as anticipating next year. What are the biggest expenses that we would have to consider? I'm assuming, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm guessing that ENV, because with the now temporary landfill right outside of my district, that would be something that we would have to figure out this fiscal year, because it's present right now. Where do you anticipate the biggest expenditures that we would have to cover this year and figure out will be?
For the landfill specifically?
I was just saying that, I mean, my question is, where do we anticipate us having to cover the most expenditures, the costs right now in this fiscal year? And I was anticipating it would be connected to ENV's usage of Corp, but I could be wrong. I'm looking at this, and you know, ENV for the Kona Low 2, I think, had the highest. No, it might have been for Kona Low 1, the highest estimated expenditure or a cost at 21 million. So is that what we're looking at as we're coming to the end of this fiscal year? And I think Chair Waters was asking about our responsibility will be, we have to figure out how we're going to cover these costs this fiscal year as we prepare for next fiscal year. But are we looking at this being the biggest part or large part of what we have to anticipate to cover this year? Is it with the ENV and that landfill in Corp or something else?
Yes, so I think it depends on if what we have in here is an expenditure related to the Kona Low storms and we want reimbursement, then it wouldn't be programmed in the CIP budget. It would be expended through the Fiscal Stability Fund. We would get reimbursement, and then whatever the co-share is, we would have to fund locally. But that 20 million that you referenced for the Kailua wastewater treatment plant, those were real damages to the plant, which exceeded its capacity. And so that 20 million is a need that's now. It's not a CIP.
Okay.
We'll probably seek reimbursement.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And that's good to know, because I think when you mentioned BWS and others, those are anticipated, but this is actual. This is not something that's not aligning with your front page, which is, you're kind of using this as what we should be going by, and the inside pages are estimates. Is that how I'm understanding that correctly?
So the difference on the front page is Andy Kawano and I just did our very best to capture what we knew to be losses on the operating and the CIP side. Once you flip that page, these are departments that are inputting into the EOC via FEMA guidelines on losses that they think they've incurred. And we have to go back and figure out which of these are actuals, what the number is, will it be operating, will it be CIP, and then whether we want to program it in our budget or whether we want to go for reimbursement, in which case we have to expend upfront, probably out of the Fiscal Stability Fund. So the truth is right now, until we go through these line item by line item, we don't know.
Thank you, Managing Director. I think this is my last question. When it comes to the FEMA anticipated reimbursements, how much do we anticipate? And I can't remember if you stated it or if I heard it somewhere else. What do we hope to anticipate to recoup, to recover when we get the federal declaration and then we can go through the process of getting reimbursements from FEMA? How much do we anticipate to get back? What percentage?
Yeah, so once we get the declaration, we believe it's 75-25. I think there are situations where you can get a higher percentage, but traditionally it's 75-25%.
75 is what we would hope to get back?
That's
okay?
correct.
Okay, thank you very much. Members, any further questions? Councilmember Cordero.
Thank you, Chair Okimoto. I'll try to make this fast. Hi, Managing Director Formby. I have a question about this current fiscal year, and I know that there will be some departments, especially a major public safety department, that may have a good amount of lapses. Is there a way that we can transfer funding that way to then be utilized to either stock up more funds into the Fiscal Stability Fund or any other funding buckets that may be able to help us?
Let me ask Director Kawano if he can answer that.
So we've advised all departments to expend from their savings first, as I mentioned earlier. I believe that, I don't think we waived the requirement that does not allow transfers between departments when the mayor's emergency proclamation was issued. So I would think that we would have to go through some kind of supplemental budget process, which would take time if we decide to transfer between departments for this year, for this fiscal year.
Okay, I understand. And so let's say there is the,
And if I'm wrong, I'll correct myself, but we'll have
if you could
people
just
checking that.
double check then.
But I think
All
that's
right.
the general rule we follow, yeah.
Okay, thank you. If you could just double check that process about the
Yep.
waiving of the transfer between departments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cordero. Chair Waters?
Thank you. I'm just trying to figure out how we can expend money from the rainy day fund, fiscal stability fund. What triggers it? Is it a mayor's declaration or the governor's declaration of emergency
For the
fiscal stability fund? Or can we, the council, go ahead and appropriate the money without either?
So Chair Waters, are you talking about the Fiscal Stability Fund?
Yeah.
So Corporation Counsel Dana Viola, the wise one, just advised me that the mayor can tap the Fiscal Stability Fund without council.
That was my understanding as well.
Whether we do that or not remains to be seen.
If the governor waives Chapter 46 Hawaii Revised Statutes, then the mayor can tap it without council approval. But his proclamation, the governor's proclamation, expires in 2 months, which would means that if the mayor's going to do it, he has to do it now, unless the governor's proclamation is extended, which we don't know if he's going to do that or not. Do you have any indication of whether or not he will?
Chair, so as you noted, the governor has waived Chapter 46, and the emergency proclamation does expire by its terms on a certain date. We'll have those discussions, but my experience from my time at the state is these emergency proclamations do usually get extended.
So right now, the mayor can, and through Budget and Fiscal Services, access the Fiscal Stability Fund.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to clarify. Because the governor has issued an emergency proclamation, and because he has waived Chapter 46, the administration does have the ability to access that fund.
Right, and I think what's required is simply giving us notice that you're going to do it, which you did. But I'm just thinking going forward, what would be the process if the governor does not extend the emergency proclamation? can the mayor, or does the mayor need to determine that there was the need to access the fund and then you come to the council for an appropriation?
Yeah, so Chair, I'd like to get back to you on that question. We need to research that. Historically, the governor has extended his EPs, but if that was to happen, I'd like to get back to you and give you advice on that.
Okay, me too, and I'm looking it up as well, and it's not clear. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair Waters. Members, no further discussion. I'd like to thank Managing Director, Deputy Managing Director, and Director Kawano for being here with us, and appreciate you taking our questions. We look forward to working with you as we go throughout this time to help our communities. Mahalo, everyone, for attending and participating in today's meeting. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.